women of Exodus, and welcome to another episode of Beauty from Ashes. I'm your girl, Kid,
And I'm your girl Fox.
and we are going to talk about something very interesting today when it comes to women in education. Not only women in education, but we got a little debate going on out here about what is better. So, trade versus 4 year college education. I think we all know, or pretty much, let's just say, just instinctually, it's implanted in most of our minds that once we leave high school, you automatically go to college, right? But I think it's also something to be said about like having a trade or having a skill to, build your life on with that. So we're going to talk about, like which one do you do? Which one is better? Is there a huge difference? Like, what is that? So we're going to talk about a couple of those things today. So Fox, holler at me. What's your feelings or your thoughts on that?
So I've participated in both. I
Same.
have gone to school, to college, higher learning,
Foolish.
college. I have also picked up a couple of trades, throughout my career. And so I now where I am, I have a whole different perspective when it comes to college and even when it comes to selecting a trade. Um, but because because I have both those experiences, you do too. But I really am excited to learn more because you went to an
I went to
HBCU.
a 4 year. Yes, more importantly, in HBCU. Shout out to all the HBCUs out there. We getting mad love right now. It's all about being
Facts.
a part of an HBCU. So yes, much like yourself though, Fox, I had the same experience. I went to a 4 year college and university, and then obtained uh, a trade later on after I had graduated from college. So it was a little bit of both for me. And I think they both had benefits to, if I have to really be honest, with my own experience, like you said, you mentioned I went to a HBCU, which was, I know just talking with a lot of my friends, from back home, it's a difference, right? It's a difference, in the environments, smaller classes. I had much more individual attention from my professors going to college. So I studied business and hospitality administration at Morris Brown College. Shout out to Moby. I I think the life experience that I gained going to a 4 year college is definitely my takeaway from that experience for me. Now don't get me wrong, I learned a lot, but at the same time, for where I am in my career now, the business side of that came a little later for me. The takeaways that I got from college in that.
Mhm.
But if I have to say, um, to be perfectly honest, my trade has made me more money than I probably could have if I had if I didn't have that to go along with my college education. So that's just my experience, just being honest about that. Um, Now the crazy part is though, I went to a vocational high school and majored in engineering, because at the time my aunt wanted me to be a civil engineer, because it was
Smart.
all right, because it was all about the demand and with the need for women in those trade industries, So one of my best and closest friends from home, she owns a construction company, and she didn't go to a 4 year college and university, but owns and operates her own business in the construction industry, which I think is super dope as a woman, right?
Yeah.
But it's something to be said for that. She works for herself, and it's been what, maybe like over almost 10 years now she's been owning and operating her own business. So
And see,
shout out that that's that.
I definitely agree with you when you talk about the making more money. with a trade. Yeah,
We
I
are
didn't
now.
graduate. I dropped out. I went when I was in college, I started working at a bank because my father was very, very big on, working in a career that is like conducive to your major. So I was going to school for accounting and I worked at the bank and I was making money. So I was like, I don't need college. And then after the bank, I went into insurance and that's a trade. It was 2 weeks, and you have to get your lines of authority. So I had life, health, property, and casualty. Um, I was making money. I literally it was a very rewarding career. So I wound up dropping out. However, now as an adult, because when I was considering going to college, I'm 17, I really didn't want to go. So I was like, I want to go to community college, and that was a thing. So I wound up going to a 4 year, finished 3 years. And now as an adult with a whole different mindset, I would go to college to learn about what I want to learn and it being in alignment with my purpose. I would go now for, psychology and theology. I am very, very, very into that. I always have been. But I wouldn't go for accounting, and yes, going to school for skincare. That's how I got into the beauty industry because I was like, this is
Right,
what I want to
right.
do. And I feel like when you go for a trade, not to say that you can't do that with, school, because people go, for their bachelors and their masters and their PhDs, etc. And it could be in anything that you want it to be. I just feel like with the trade, it was just much more easy to go from here to here to here if I desired to, until I really was in alignment with my purpose. And I think for me, that's what the major thing is, really being aware of your purpose. I feel like at 17 I wasn't aware of my purpose really. So going to school for
Right.
accounting, I was just going to
Most of
school.
us aren't, right? Like nobody knows what they really want to do at like 18 and 19. We still trying to figure out being an adult.
Being an adult at home.
Right,
No
as grown
bills.
as grown as our parents would allow us to be, right?
Right. Right. And so now don't get me wrong, I do understand, my father was just like, you want to be more than an entertainer. You want to know the business. And as an adult, again, with this mindset,
Amen.
I understand that we need to make space for everyone. I can't be a doctor and an accountant and a lawyer and, I need to be me. There's someone in this
Dad
world.
wanted you to be all the things, all the
Right.
professions.
Like there's someone in this world who's going to be a doctor and who's going to be an accountant and they're going to excel. Imagine having a mediocre accountant, because that would have been me, a mediocre accountant, because I didn't love it. It's not my purpose.
Mm. You know what? You touched on a couple of important things, Fox. Because you mentioned about you actually dropping out, of college. So, and let's talk about this because I think this is something to consider not only as women, because I think the societal norms would have us to believe, like where our place needs to be in terms of, like education, like, and there's more and more women going, getting degrees now more so than men, right? But here's the thing, like with with the dropout rate, like there's more and more, people dropping out of college because let's be real, you leave home at what, 17, 18, like you said? Some of us don't have the skills to survive outside our mother's house or you know what I'm saying? Like not everybody is built to be away from home and what that looks like. So I think the challenges of going to a 4 year university, living on the dorms or living on your own, some people aren't just ready for that. Like I thought it was interesting. Was doing some research with this, and it was talking about like 40% of 4 year college attendees wind up dropping out, not because they couldn't handle it academically, but because they couldn't handle it based on the experience, the life experience they did not have.
Mm.
I think that's crazy, but at the same time, growing up in the inner city, nah. Everybody
Right,
not
right.
taught them life skills, how to, communicate, how to build relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got, I mean, in being in school, you got to talk to them professors. You got to have some kind of finesse when it comes to certain things, because life continues to happen while you're in school, right? It don't stop just because you got to go to class. So you got to be able to handle those pressures along with being able to maintain a certain GPA, right? So.
Absolutely. And see, I did not go away for school. I commuted to school. So
Mhm.
I was working before I worked at the bank, because that was my first like serious corporate career. I worked at Burger King. So I was at Burger King and then, going to school and, so I didn't have that experience of really being away. However, it's still even being on campus, when I was, it came with its own challenges, of, you have a variety, unlike high school, it's a controlled environment with, peers around your age. However, when you are in college, there's a variety of ages. Some people, like if I were to return now, I'm 33, I'd be 33 going to school with 16, 17-year-olds, and so that was, that could you like, that's a whole challenge in its own for
Right.
someone that's my age, but also back then it just was a lot. And then you're talking about people who are older in age but who are
Mhm.
not mature. It's a whole experience in itself. So I 100% agree that sometimes we're not ready. And I know people who have also dropped out or just didn't finish, or they went back to finish later because they thought they wanted to be away and they want to come back home. They were homesick. They weren't ready to be away.
Because that's a mindset.
Yeah.
That is a whole mindset, or that's a skill in itself, to being able to change your mindset to adapt to an environment, especially if like you and I both, we come from like we come from a unique background where not everybody's parents is grooming them for to the next level in terms of going to the next education. They know that they want us to go to different higher heights, higher levels, and be able to make a certain amount of money to live a certain way. I think is the goal for most parents, to see their children succeed in this world. But like you said, at the end of the day, if you're not preparing your kids for that, then how are you expecting them to survive when they do leave the confines of not just your home, but from the neighborhood that they grew up in? Because I know some people have never, you know, um, left the block, in a sense. Never left the city, never traveled outside of where, like
Mm-hmm.
for me, and I'm so grateful, that I was fortunate to have those experiences to, see other things, and make friends from other cities, and to learn everybody, to learn other people's environments, cultural differences, all of those things, because it's something to be said for that. you know um I think one of the benefits of having a college degree, and outside of the social skills, is the exposure that you get to have, to other people and to other ethnicities, and just other ways of thinking and doing things. um Also too, I think, fast forwarding to, in our careers, when we're building our careers, having that 4-year degree on your resume, having those educational credentials, it does, tend to put you in a certain place or certain level. However, now let's talk about this part, the financial piece.
You see, I got my
Right, because I saw you like, oh, here we go. Because listen, I am quite some years removed from college, okay? Now, I'm going to be real transparent right now. When I left college, I was making $9 an hour. I will never forget that. I'm like, listen,
You mean
that's
after
not
college, after graduating?
after graduating college. I got a job, not even in my field, but I was making $9 an hour, Fox. Okay? Now, here's another thing, the difference between a trade versus college, because I saw something else that I thought was interesting when it talked about in terms of pay, right? How about literally getting a, maybe a 2-year associate's or a trade versus that 4-year college degree? Fox, it was only a 17K difference. What?
Now, let me add to that because one, I know a lot of people who share that experience. They graduate, we do what we're supposed to do. We graduated college and here we are. We have this $9 an hour. Like this is not is this what I went to school for?
Well, hurt my
Now,
feelings. Hurt my little
either
feelings.
I feel like either way, you definitely can make the most, whether decide to go to college or decide to, go for a trade. What I think was most appealing to me as a young adult with going for a trade versus finishing college was that I definitely can make as much as I want to make. I feel like college, then like don't get me wrong, I honestly do wish I finished because I feel like what I would have learned taking other the finishing the prerequisites and then really getting into my major, I would have learned all of the business background that I really need today versus taking a course here or there that may be free offered at my local, university. I would have already had that in my belt and would have had that as I was going through my
Right.
career. However, I feel like on either end, it's what you make of it. So I know when I was in insurance, when I first started, I was probably making like I think 25,000. By the time I was finished, I was making 45,000. And I was in that career for a good 3-4 years. And it's, because then there's commission in addition to your salary. So sometimes there's things that you can't be taught. And it ties back to what you said about experience. You can't be taught how to be a personable person. No matter what, you can't be taught interpersonal skills. Either you got it or you don't. Either you know how to talk to people or you don't, kind of like on The Color Purple. He said, Suge got talent, Suge got spark. What you got? Like, those things cannot be taught. Sometimes we have the book knowledge and the smarts, but we don't have the personality. And I think that those things marry. So when you have the experience of going away to a HBCU and you can handle it and you grow and you learn and it complements, it will make the difference. But like you said, it being just a $17,000 difference, it leaves a lot for you to think about. And then the debt.
Right. You know what? I could throw up in my mouth because I look. Some of us are still paying off them student loans. Okay, like
Me too.
maybe I don't even want to talk about it because I just feel like I don't even want to put that out into the universe more than it already is. But yes, or the idea of I mean the cost is astronomical. I mean more than half the kids that are going to college now. I mean you most of them are taking out loans, right? Because how you
Mm-hmm.
paying for that? Nobody just has an extra, maybe 35,000 dollars, and that's just a maybe a semester, a year, depending on the school you go to,
Yep.
right? Just laying around to pay for education, like. I have my own thoughts on some on education, and I in terms of, from in my mind, I think it should be complimentary at
Oh,
a
okay.
certain level.
Yes.
I just, come on, man. Like, now, when you get into more specialized fields and things like that and having to pay for things, then yes. But, that's a whole nother show and a whole nother topic. But I think too, when we talk about like trade school versus, or vocational school, you don't see a lot of women, taking on those studies either, to be an engineer, to go into, plumbing, electrician. Now, here's another thing, and just hindsight, right? Being a homeowner as well too, it's some of those technical skills that you wish you had, because when it's time to call somebody to take care of some things, it's like, yo, like I could have learned that, and at some point I did learn it, but because it wasn't a skill that I, used on a regular basis, I did nothing with it, learning how to fix things or be my own handyman. It's certain things I can do, but There's something to be said for, people who have those trades under their belt, and they can move and shake how they want to in terms of, which I think a lot of us are looking for now, especially, in the pursuit of what we would call happiness right now, is being able to set your own hours and do your own thing and move at your own pace, right? You know, you can't necessarily do that with a 9 to 5 all the time. Nothing wrong with a 9 to 5, but at the same time, it's about being able to have that autonomy to, live life on your own terms. Uh,
Right. And then, but I think that also, again, it ties to, so like you said, I went to, okay, you went to a school specifically where you were learning about engineering. So, a
mm-hmm.
lot of the things you didn't retain, but see how you made room for someone else because you're in alignment with your purpose. Your purpose is beauty. Your
Right.
purpose is empowering other women in mentorship and really just allowing them to see the best of themselves. I'm going to be
Right.
transparent, y'all. Kid and I talk just regularly. Okay. And Kid had to get me together earlier this week and really brought out the best in me. And so, with Kid being in alignment with her purpose, now the plumber who's in alignment with their purpose can come to Kid's house and be like, you know what, I got this, no problem. It's about making room. So although Kid has, the knowledge and some of the
Never thought
awareness,
about it like that.
because yes, absolutely. So like I understand, my parents' intentions, and parents, there's no manual. They want the best for you. And especially if they didn't finish college or didn't finish high school, and they know that what we've been taught, education is the key to success. So that's what they're really
Mm-hmm.
driving. It's the best intention. And I think, when we become adults and we create our own experiences, whether we've lived them or not, but we are like, okay, this is what I see for myself, and this is why I was able, I think this is my purpose. Things start to fall into place beautifully. And as long as we just stay the course, it's not to say that it'll always be easy, because sometimes we'll face obstacles that'll make us second guess it.
Nah,
But
right.
it falls into alignment. And then,
Yes.
now, speaking of creating experiences, I want you to share what you share with me, because I never thought about it like that. And I think, if anything, it just really drives, again, not having any experience, but being able to create something from your imagination, or just from witnessing it.
And I think, knowing what I know now as an adult, like success is relative, right? So it depends on what your definition of success is. At one time it was about making a certain amount of money, maybe getting through college or graduating from college, getting a certain job. But success to me, it is so much more than that these days. I think, being the spiritual person, that we both are. I think as we start to dive deeper into that, and it's a creative thing. I think we all were designed to create on a certain level. Like, we're both creatives, and I thoroughly enjoy and fulfilled, because that is something that I know now about myself, that I was born to create. I have to create. Exodus 35:2, it says that, we were designed to create. God is creative. God created us to create, so whatever that looks like for individuals, working with your hands, I think any of those things, whether it's working with your hands or studying, to get, to matriculate to a certain level in college, all of that requires a certain hustle, right? There's a certain hustle that has to be attached to that, so and I think, this is probably what you're talking about, because I was thinking about some of the people that actually don't have college degrees but are considered super successful, like icons in their field. So the first person that comes to mind for me, like people like Jay-Z, like he's one of the people that I pay attention to on a regular basis, because this man, he didn't even finish high school, and he's a billionaire with a B, not an M, a B. Okay, like this man came from the projects, and he is now like in rooms that we probably still can't even fathom. I had the experience, and I think about like Beyonce as well too. She's another one. She didn't finish her high school education because she was pursuing her career in entertainment, and it's definitely paid off from her on the back end of that. And I even, just I was watching, like, even like in her special. Now don't get me quote, because I know, the beehive will go crazy when you start not misquoting, when you're talking about the queen. But here's the thing: I had the experience to attend Coachella, or at, with the company that I was working with, and be in that presence. Like, that lady is a star. Do you hear me? She has star written all over her. And I was just in awe of how, she had never gone to college, but, I know that that was something that, that she's spoken about in the past, that she desired. And she created a whole HBCU moment in the middle of this desert. Like, people, if you've never been, I mean, it's just like, I'm just getting cold chills talking about it. If you've never been to an HBCU, especially homecoming, like, you are missing out. Like, because that experience is something to be seen, to be heard, like the camaraderie, like, and these are more than just black people she's out here entertaining, giving them the whole HBCU experience. Like, I saw, everything on that stage, from school days to homecoming coronation to, the game at homecoming, to what it looked like on, on the yard after the homecoming game. Like, she created a whole experience, and she hadn't even attended college. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was something like so magical about that moment. But, I digress with that. But all of this to say that, is that, what is, like, success? Like, I think it's just relative. And I think these kids nowadays, they know how to create these opportunities for themselves without having that, that education. I'm not saying that it's not needed, but there is something to be said for being able to create your own way and find your own path, like you said. I think tied to your purpose as
Absolutely.
well too.
Because, like you said, too, for example, with Jay being in spaces that we can't even fathom, now
Yeah.
everything works together. So Jay is the talent, or that's how he began, on this path. However, he needs the exec, he needs the accountant, he needs the public relations specialist,
Right.
he needs the lawyer, he needs it's all connected. So if we really were in alignment, like if I were someone where I knew that I was able to really speak in, such an amazing way that I can represent and say, nope, you don't say that, I'll take care of this for you, I'll make this public statement for you, or no, I'll represent you, or no, you listen, you may know what 1 + 1 is, but I'm really going to break this down to ensure that your estate and everything you're building is in place. So again, it's just, knowing what is your purpose. And I do believe that we come into a space where we're aware of what our purpose is. And for
Right.
me, I definitely believe I'm in a space that is in alignment with my purpose, for, being in beauty. Beauty is wellness. I also know that I will be returning to school, but not just to finish a degree to make my parents happy. I'll be returning because it's going to be in alignment with my purpose. My purpose has
Mm-hmm.
everything to do with my relationship with God and with my relationship with connecting with others, because I went to therapy when I was going through chemotherapy treatment, and it changed my life. I went for 2 years. And I knew, even when I was younger, people always were like, are you a therapist? You should go to school to be a therapist. And, my father, because again, just, you want to be successful, you want to focus on that. So is there really money in this career? Is it worth the stress, etc.? But when you're building, and like you said, when you have that hustle, because you have to have that hustle when you're in college, and you have to have that hustle when you finish college. So from my experience, whether I finished or not, as long as I have that hustle, as long as I have that drive, that ambition, and that faith, I'm gonna make it what I want it to be. And it's manifesting. It's
Yeah.
happening now. Even now, my dreams are coming true, and I'll have other dreams. So,
Right.
I think there's no like right way. I think that education is important, whether you decide to go to college or whether you do a trade. But I think the biggest thing is really just being aware of yourself and knowing what is your purpose, or even having the slightest idea. If you just take a moment, I think that you really, really would be able to identify that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad that you put like clarified that too, with for like definitely for both of us. It's and I think what we want to like we want to convey to our audience too is not is like we're not saying which one is better than the other, because clearly they both have their benefits, right? Because we've experienced both. Definitely not opposed to a 4-year university. Like I talked about the benefits of that for me personally, and you speaking to your experience, going to school and then kind of leaving to do your own thing, to to chart your own path in terms of where you wanted to go and what felt good to you. Because I think it's something to be said, especially when we're deciding what's best for not only ourselves as women but our children as well too. um, this generation is just completely, it's different than anything that I've ever seen in in my lifetime, because it kind of gives me a little bit like they're revolutionaries, they're activists, they're a lot more conscious than I remember my generation coming up. So I think one of the things that we're simply saying is that there are options, right? There are options, and school could be anywhere for a lot of us right now. It's your life experience. It's like where your environment, the people you surround. Like every day, it's a moment to be schooled. Um, I think also too, for me, it's kind of like no matter what you choose, I think one of the things, and I talk about women, we have superpowers in my eyes. I think women are superheroes. So we have a resilience to do, whatever we put our minds to, we can do. And like I said, school is not the only place that you can learn. It just depends on what you take away from, these life experiences that, that we have. So, it's what you do with those life experiences as well too, because like we you hear this all the time, when you know better you do better.
Mhm.
So whether you do better by getting a college education or learning a trade, I think it's all about, that's what determines your outcome, is what you do with those things.
Mhm. Mhm. And so I
So
think that our beauty secret for this episode um, is really in alignment with, like it said, what you do. So creating, we were created by God and we are of God. So we are able to create. And so create, not just creating a beauty look. If you didn't check out our last tutorial, though, please check it out and share with us, some things you would like for us to create. However, it
of
also
course,
has to do with creating. It also has to do with creating our lives, creating what
mm,
we want to see in our life, creating our circles, creating our future, creating our legacy. So create. So that is the beauty secret. Create. What are you creating in the now? Are you creating a more peaceful home? Are you creating a new career path? Are you creating peace within the relationships that you have with your spouse or your partner or your family or your children? What are you creating that is going to build and leave a great impact? So that is the beauty secret. Create beauty, create positivity, create love, and create happiness for yourself.
mm-hmm. Listen, if you don't never learn nothing else, learn your purpose. How about that? Because once you discover that, right,
Yeah,
all of that falls into line. I love that. Thank you, Fox.
thank you. So
So I think we can go ahead and wrap this one up. Now, Women of Exodus, now you know that we always, come to you at, on every episode and ask you your opinions, on trade versus education. What are your thoughts on it? What are your experiences with it? I would love for you all to share with us. So please, provide some of us, some insight in the comments of what your experience was, whether you went to college, whether you developed, you went to, went to a 2-year program, maybe got a certification. What has that difference been like in your life? How has it affected your life? And maybe even talk to us about, as an experience, your experience as a mom. What does that look like for your children? Are you pushing them to go to college, or, are you allowing them to choose for themselves how they want, their lives to go? So talk to us. Let us
Yeah,
know.
I love that. And
Yeah.
until next time, Woman of Exodus, I'm your girl Fox,
And I'm Kid.
and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.